week.
Are you?
Well, it's several weeks away, about 3 weekends. Their birthday. We're going down
You're
to.
going to go down to.
We'll go down to Woodland Hills or wherever it is Reseda.
I'll be dead by the time. That's an awfully long trip. I get tired.
Oh.
I went with somebody. Who did I go with? Tata.
Yes.
Or was it you?
No, it was Tata, and you stayed at a bed and breakfast up in Santa Cruz.
What can you tell me about your dad?
Well, my dad came over as a young boy. His mother was what they call her. Her husband was a
barrister.
A barrister. That's it. Barrister. I was thinking that name. And he died. 3 little boys. Papa was the youngest one. And his father died, and so his mother packed up the 3 little boys and came to California.
From where? Ohio?
No, from England.
Oh, my.
Oh, I thought they went, honey, didn't they go to Duluth?
That's my mother's folks. This is my father's. My mother's folks. Her father, they were from Ohio, and he owned a railroad in Ohio that went no place but in Ohio.
Oh, just in Ohio.
Just imagine owning a railroad that goes no place except around in the state.
Now, that was Marcus Eels?
Marcus Eels.
Uh-huh.
And then he came out here, and he was retired. He came out here, and he was very much interested in plants. And he planted a great many of the trees in the park on Garden Street.
We were looking at them yesterday.
He planted, that was just fields, and he planted most of those big old trees.
They're beautiful.
But he was very interested in agriculture, apparently. I never knew him, but...
Well, he died in 1888, and you were born in 1895. That's right.
He was a very intellectual man.
Well, let's see. Betty told me that he had a home on Nob Hill in San Francisco also, plus a home here. Is that right?
Yes. That was my Uncle Alec. That was my mother's brother.
Oh, so Marcus didn't really have the home on...
Marcus died before I even was born. He was the father, and he was the... Marcus Eels died, and I think he died. I don't...
Well, it was Uncle Alex that had...
Uncle Alec, yes.
The Nob Hill home. But you lived up there part of the time.
We used to go
your
up
mother,
there.
Your mother.
Mother did.
Mother did.
And then we lived, then they had a home in Mill Valley, and we used to go up there all the time.
Is that by San Francisco, too?
Remember Helen Vanderveer? She was Helen Field Vanderveer. She was Uncle Alex's daughter.
I don't think she'd remember her.
Well, she's the one that had peppermint tea one time.
She's from San Francisco?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
Do you remember her?
Mm-hmm. My kids were fascinated by her, honey, because somebody had an upset tummy one time, and she fixed a cup of peppermint tea, and it really helped.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
She used to come visit you at your house.
Oh, yes, I know she did.
I remember her. She was a Helen who?
Eels Vanderveer. She married Vanderveer.
I've got a book on the Eels family, and Mary Lennon has it.
Oh, she does.
When she was here last, she wanted to read it, and so she took it home with her.
Okay. Well, we'll get it from her then.
Okay.
Well, do you know anything about Marcus Eels' parents?
Friends?
His parents.
No, I don't.
Were they from Ohio?
I think so.
This is your great-grandparents?
They owned this big railroad that I can't imagine a railroad just going around in the state. Can you?
Well, I guess
Silly.
they needed a transportation.
Back then, that was probably a long ways to cover all of Ohio State.
So he was an intellectual type.
Oh, very, very.
Did he?
He was an attorney
Oh, he was.
in the old. Now, what was the name before the earthquake? And the building went. It came Market Street and then another street. And this big building was here.
In
I
San
can see it
Francisco.
in San Francisco. He was a very prominent attorney.
Now, who is this we're talking about?
What?
Who is that?
Uncle Alex
Uncle Alex.
and
Oh,
Uncle
well.
Hope were
Yeah.
both attorneys,
That's right.
and they had their office. But he lived in Mill Valley, and so after work, every day he'd have to go down and get the ferry and ferry across to Sausalita, take the third rail train. You know the third rail.
No.
Don't you know what the third rail is? Well, you don't walk on the third rail or you don't walk ever again.
Oh, it's charged, in other
The
words,
electric
is it?
rail. Mhm.
And he'd take the train, that third rail thing, and get off at Millwood. And they had a beautiful home. Then they didn't have cars in those days. How did he get up?
He must have been one of the original commuters.
Huh?
He must have been an original commuter.
Well, no,
San
he had to get
Francisco.
off and then go up to his place. They had a beautiful home, but it was up this little,
Kind of canyon-like.
kind of little valley with beautiful trees. Oh, remember how beautiful
Yes.
it was?
Maybe he had a horse waiting for him.
They had horses too.
That could be. He could have had, or there may have been a horse and buggy.
They had a horse and a pony cart, a little basket pony cart. I never remember. I always remember that. I think it was that cousin that had it.
You had one here too, though, that you used to go around.
With your goat.
Yes,
your
we
goat.
did, didn't we? But we had a goat. We had a goat. My father had the harness maker make a complete set of harness for this goat. And we had a cart. And we used to take friends riding in this cart through the old park, you know. It wasn't paved. There was no pavement in the park. It was all just dirt. So we had them. One of my friends told me, Mildred Moody, you know, she was an old friend, and she said that we used to make everyone we took for a ride in our pony cart, our goat cart, we'd make them tie a handkerchief around their nose so they wouldn't breathe the dust that the goat stirred up, because that was going through the
park.
Alameda Park.
Yeah.
There was no pavement at all.
You had a
Just
trail
the
to it
trees,
through.
probably just the trees there that your dad had
Yeah.
planted.
Yeah, and grass.
And my grandfather planted a lot of those lovely old trees in the park.
Well, what was he like, your grandfather?
I never knew him. He died before I was born, or when I was little. I never knew Grandfather Eels, but he was very brilliant, very.
You knew his wife, though, your grandmother. She was the sweet little one,
Yes,
wasn't she?
yes. Yes, she was.
Well, that was Susan Grimes.
Mm.
Her name was Susan Grimes.
Yes, Susan Grimes. She was related to some famous people, but I've forgotten who they were.
So how old were you when she died?
I hardly remember her.
So you were pretty little.
When that grandmother died.
What was she like?
Oh, she was darling. She used to make dog clothes for us, and she just loved it. Grandma Beckman was a very aristocratic. She wore a long train, and she had people wait on her, and Not a bit like my grandmother Eels. And grandmother Eels was from a wonderful old family too.
Was she?
Oh yeah.
A lot of money and that kind of thing?
Oh yeah. Very, very.
But she didn't have the snooty sort of personality.
No. Grandma Beckman had. I have a picture of her with her long train, and the hired girl that she had was more than a hired girl. She.
Yes, I guess I am.
Betty, this is to take home for your lunch.
Oh, how nice. Thank you, sweetie. Okay. Let me see, I'll take this.
Grandma Beckman
Yes,
had always had Jessie, this hired girl, but she wouldn't have her picture taken with Jessie. Jessie'd have to stand way in the background. And so, you see the difference in the two grandmothers.
yeah, that's a little different.
The other grandmother was so
She's very
sweet.
class oriented.
My mother's mother was so darling, and we used to make doll clothes for us, and she was so natural. But Grandma Beckman was very aristocratic, or tried to be. I guess she was, maybe, I don't know.
Now, where were they from? The Beckman.
England, everything, all my folks came from.
Well,
Are you true? Are you true? Finish now.
Uh-huh.
Except for this. She
Okay.
doesn't hold on to that.
I take my fork. No, I won't. I've got this.
She has one. She has a little one. It's good enough.
I give you a new one.
Well,
yeah, her name was originally Chettleburg.
huh?
Her name was Chettleburg originally.
Chettleburg, that was my,
Elizabeth Chettleburg, she later married Mr. Beckman. Is that right?
oh,
That was Lamb.
I was thinking Chettleburg was on my other side.
Oh, no, it's getting so confusing.
Is that, well, maybe I'm wrong.
No, that was Robert Lamb's mother. She's the one that married the barrister and came from England. She was Chettleburg from Norwich.
Oh, yes, that's right.
And then she married Mr. Lamb.
Yes.
What was his name?
Robert Lamb, he was my father.
No.
No, his father, before him. Do you know?
Oh.
His dad. What was his
He
name?
married a barrister, they called him.
Mhm.
And this barrister, she married in England, Norwich, and had these 3 little boys. And her barrister husband went out in the cold one night and got pneumonia and died. So Grandma Beckman had a lot of spunk. She was, you couldn't put her down, you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
She grabbed her 3 little girls in time, boys in time, and came over to this country. She wasn't going to stay there in England, and came over here and met Mr. Beckman in time. And I guess he had a lot of money, and I think she had plenty too. And they built this big house. Did I show you the picture?
Is that the one here?
On Grand Avenue?
Yeah,
was
on
converted,
Grand
huh?
Avenue. They built that big house.
Yeah, that was, we just went by it yesterday, kind of.
Yeah.
It's all changed, though.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
But you can kind of
Well,
tell.
What did Mr. Beckman do for a living? Was he a lawyer also?
He was Mr. Lamb, my grandfather, was a barrister. But what did Beckman do? He was Grandma Beckman's second. When Lamb died, she married this Beckman. I don't know what he did. I don't think he did anything.
He just had money.
He just must have had money. He must have had
I
money.
never heard that he had any occupation. And, well, the thing was, she married him in Duluth. I remember you said she went to Duluth. And that's
The
where
what?
Duluth, Minnesota.
Oh, yes,
That's where she married Beckman.
Yeah.
But then when she came out here, did he come with her? Was he still alive?
Well, oh yes, he was alive. I thought she married him out
Did you meet him?
No, I don't know. That's it.
Did you meet him?
here. I remember Oh, Grandma Beckman, very well.
But her
Did you meet-
husband, Beckman,